1 in 4 adults on this planet has fatty liver disease right now, and most of them have no idea. Not because they feel sick. Because fatty liver is silent until it is not. By the time symptoms appear, the disease has often progressed for years. Today we are going to look at the 6 biological phases through which intermittent fasting reverses fatty liver disease, backed by peer-reviewed research from Nature, Cell Metabolism, PMC, and a clinical trial completed in 2025. And we are going to cover exactly what you can do, starting tonight. What is fatty liver, and why is it dangerous? Fatty liver disease, medically called NAFLD, or non-alcoholic fatty liver disease, occurs when excess fat accumulates inside liver cells, interfering with the liver's function. The liver performs over 500 documented functions. It detoxifies your blood, produces bile for fat digestion, regulates blood sugar, stores critical vitamins, and produces the proteins your immune system and clotting system depend on. When fat builds up inside liver cells, all 500 of those functions are compromised simultaneously. According to the World Health Organization, NAFLD currently affects approximately 25 to 30% of the global population, making it the most common chronic liver disease in the world. And the number of cases is projected to increase by 56% between 2019 and 2030. The primary drivers are excessive sugar consumption, particularly fructose, which is metabolized almost exclusively in the liver and converted directly to liver fat, insulin resistance, obesity, and sedentary lifestyle. Simple fatty liver can progress silently through inflammation, called NASH, to fibrosis, cirrhosis, and eventually liver failure. But here is the critical fact. At the early and intermediate stages, fatty liver is one of the most reversible conditions in medicine. A meta-analysis published in PMC confirmed that weight loss reduction of just 10% can decrease hepatic steatosis and result in fibrosis regression. And intermittent fasting is the most efficient documented method of achieving that metabolic change. Phase 1, insulin drops. 4 to 8 hours. The first phase begins within 4 to 8 hours of your last meal. As blood glucose falls, the pancreas reduces insulin secretion. This is critical, because insulin is the master signal that keeps the liver in fat storage mode. When insulin is chronically elevated from frequent eating, the liver receives constant instructions to produce and store fat. When insulin drops during fasting, that signal stops. The liver also begins depleting its glycogen, stored glucose, which typically runs out within 4 to 8 hours. Once glycogen is exhausted, the liver has no choice but to turn to its own fat reserves. Most people who eat throughout the day never allow insulin to drop long enough for this transition to occur. Phase 2, lipolysis. 8 to 16 hours. Between 8 and 16 hours of fasting, lipolysis activates. Hormone-sensitive lipase, an enzyme activated when insulin drops, begins breaking down stored triglycerides inside liver cells into free fatty acids and glycerol. These fatty acids are then released into the bloodstream as fuel for the entire body. For every hour spent in this phase, measurable amounts of liver fat are being converted to energy. A landmark study published in Scientific Reports in 2023 compared intermittent fasting to simply switching to a normal diet in NAFLD subjects. Both approaches improved the condition, but intermittent fasting showed significantly stronger therapeutic efficacy. The researchers identified the mechanism. It activates the MIF/AMP pathway, which promotes autophagy and reverses fat accumulation more powerfully than diet alone. Phase 3, autophagy. 16 to 24 hours. After 16 hours of fasting, the liver activates autophagy, from the Greek words meaning self-eating. Autophagy is the cellular process by which liver cells engulf and dismantle their own damaged components. Fat-laden organelles, dysfunctional mitochondria, and old cellular debris. This is not metaphorical. Autophagy physically removes the structural damage caused by fat accumulation inside liver cells, producing the raw materials to build new, healthy ones. Research published in PMC in 2024 made a particularly important finding. Fatty liver disease actually blocks autophagy, creating a vicious cycle where the accumulated fat prevents the cleaning mechanism that would remove it. Intermittent fasting forcefully breaks this cycle by reactivating autophagy through the FGF21 signaling pathway, as confirmed by the 2025 clinical trial at Memorial University. The overnight fast, particularly the hours of deep sleep, is when autophagy peaks in the liver. Phase 4, ketosis. 24 to 48 hours. Between 24 and 48 hours of fasting, the liver enters full ketosis, converting fatty acids from its own fat stores into ketone bodies. Beta-hydroxybutyrate, acetoacetate, and acetone are produced and distributed to the brain, heart, and muscles as alternative fuel. The significance for NAFLD. Every ketone molecule produced represents liver fat that has been converted to energy. The liver is directly consuming itself in the most constructive way possible. People often report a noticeable shift in mental clarity and energy during this phase, not from food, but from the steady supply of ketones the liver is now producing from its own stored fat. This is a sign the protocol is working precisely as intended. This phase also involves AMP activation, the cellular energy sensor that simultaneously promotes fat burning, activates autophagy, and suppresses the inflammatory pathways that drive liver damage. The Scientific Reports 2023 study confirmed that if-mediated AMP activation is the central molecular mechanism distinguishing fasting from ordinary dietary restriction. This is why simply eating less without a fasting window does not produce the same results. The metabolic switch that AMP represents only activates when caloric intake drops to near zero for a sustained period. Phase 5, inflammation reduction. 48 to 72 hours. Between 48 and 72 hours, systemic inflammation measurably drops. C-reactive protein, the primary marker of systemic inflammation, decreases. More specifically in the liver, PMC 2024 research found that intermittent fasting reduces galectin-3 positive Kupffer cells, the liver's macrophages that drive the progression from simple steatosis to inflammatory NASH. This is the phase where fibrosis reversal becomes possible. Research published in TANF Online in 2025 found that alternate-day fasting downregulated TGF-1, the primary fibrosis driver, and MMP-9, effectively interrupting the molecular pathway that converts liver inflammation into permanent scarring. This is the scientific basis for the clinical finding that 10% weight loss produces fibrosis regression. Phase 6, liver regeneration. 72 hours and beyond. The liver is the only internal organ capable of complete regeneration. When the inflammatory burden drops and autophagy has cleared damaged hepatocytes, hepatic progenitor cells begin producing new, healthy liver cells. The liver's 500 functions begin restoring. Liver enzymes normalize. Energy production improves. Digestion and detoxification capacity recover. This is not the body repairing damage incrementally. This is the body replacing damaged tissue with structurally new cells. The practical protocol is straightforward. Begin with 16-8 intermittent fasting, stop eating by 8 in the evening, skip breakfast, eat your first meal at noon. This covers phases 1 through 3 every single day. The beauty of this approach is that approximately half of the fasting window is spent sleeping, meaning the effort required is far less than people expect. Most of the hunger adaptation happens within the first 5 to 7 days, after which the body becomes efficient at accessing fat for fuel, and hunger during the fasting window largely disappears. Black coffee during the fasting window does not break the fast, and research shows it actually enhances autophagic response in the liver. Plain water, sparkling water, and unsweetened green tea are also permitted. During your eating window, eliminate all liquid fructose. Every can of soda, every fruit juice, every sweetened drink is delivering a direct fat payload to your liver through the portal vein. Prioritize protein and healthy fats at your first meal. This keeps insulin low and extends the fat-burning state into the eating window. Add eggs for choline, the nutrient the liver requires to package and export fat, and include cruciferous vegetables such as broccoli and cauliflower for detox pathway support. Walk 30 minutes daily to amplify AMP activation in both muscle and liver tissue. Exercise during or just after the fasting window produces additive benefits. 12 weeks of consistent 16-8 fasting is what clinical studies use to demonstrate measurable NAFLD reversal, not perfection every day, but consistent application most days of the week. Consult your doctor before starting, especially if liver enzymes are already significantly elevated or if you have confirmed NASH or fibrosis. Advanced stages require medical supervision. For most people with early-stage NAFLD, however, the 16-8 protocol is safe, accessible, and free. No medication. No surgery. No expensive program. Just a timed eating window and the right foods within it. The 6 phases begin the moment you finish your last meal tonight. Your liver has been working for you every second of your life, filtering, producing, protecting, without ever asking for anything in return. Give it the one thing it needs most. Time without food. That is the entire protocol. That is the key. See you in the next video.
Yeah, we did it! Thanks for subscribing!
That's a brief look at Health Explained. Thanks for watching. Goodbye.